Nachiketa. Because his Shraddha is so deep in what he wants to learn, even to Yama he can give back. So you can imagine what must have been Yama's face. Look at this boy. But within Yama is enjoying this. Because he's enjoying that somebody like this finally I've got. Generally, if I appear in anybody's home, the first thing they do is fall at my feet and beg. Please give me a little more time. Just now my grandson is born. There's a story of this Brahmin, who was very good Brahmin doing a lot of yajna yagas. So one day his guru came and told, "Your Papam is a good person, let me take him to Swarga." Because all the karmas were done to attain Swarga. So Guru said, "Come, I will take you to Swarga." And he said, "I would be very happy to go, but you see, I've just got married, we are expecting a baby. Let that baby be born, then I will come. How can I leave my wife like this?" "All right, I'll come back after some time." So Guru came back after some time. Now the son is born and is playing in the garden. He says, "Now let us go to Swarga." He says, "Just now this is born, my wife is expecting a second child. Therefore, just give me a little more time. I will finish my duties towards my family." "Okay, I will come back again." He says, "Now there are two children playing there, a boy and a girl." And he says, "Now time to go to Swarga." He says, "See, if I leave them in this young age, who will look after them? After all, I am the father. My wife is not so educated. She can't look after them. They will have a bad life. So let me grow them, let them get educated and be on their own. Then I will come to Swarga." So many years pass, the Guru comes back. "Shall we go now?" He says, we just found a beautiful bride for my son, daughter-in-law. Let him get married. And my daughter also has to go to her home. That is, she has to get married. As a father, this is my basic duty. I will settle them and then we will go to Swarga. So he comes back after some time. The son is married. Daughter-in-law has come. Daughter has been married and given away. And now the son-in-law the son has got a little boy, grandson for this. He says, "Now let us go." He says, "My son is very careless. He doesn't care about the wealth of the family. He doesn't care about the children. He's always on his own. I have to be there because now grandson is born. Who will look after that grandson? Without me, he doesn't even stay 1 minute. I have to feed him. I have to play with him. Tata. He doesn't leave me at all." And Guru says, "All right, so when should I come back?" He says, "Let this grandson grow a little. I will store up a little money so that even my son, if he's not taking good care, the money will be there with the family and they will be taken care of. So I'll buy them an insurance scheme, invest in some stocks and bonds, buy them a property or two and the land in the name of my grandson. I'll settle all this and then I will come." Comes back. "Guru, shall we go now? You're done." But where is the Guru? Where is the Shishya? Dead and gone already. So he says these children playing. And their grandchildren were playing. So he asked them, "There was a grand old man over here. Where is he, your grandfather?" He says, "He died long ago." Then he says, "Where has he gone? Where is he gone?" He thinks from his yoga siddhi and sees a dog is sitting at the door. And he realizes this old man is born as a dog. Then he goes and talks to the dog. "What is it you made of yourself? I was trying to make you God and you are becoming a dog. What have you done to yourself?" Then this dog said, "You see, my son and very careless. He's always out. My daughter-in-law is absolutely careless. Little children are there. Nobody is there to protect them. So I have to guard the house and guard the children. Therefore, I have taken the form of a dog. I'm quite happy. Let me finish this. Let grandchildren grow up. Then I will come," he says. Guru's patience. Ahetu kadaya sindhu. He goes back and says, "Let me come back again." Next time he comes back, the dog is also missing. So he asks the grandchildren who have grown up now, "There was a dog here who used to guard the gate. What happened to him?" "Oh, the dog died. He had some disease and he died." "Oh, is it? Where is his dog?" Now he starts thinking where this man has gone. Then he sees a snake in the backyard. And he realizes this Shishya has become a snake in the backyard. Why? Because he has buried the wealth under the earth and he's sitting always on top of it. So he tells the grandchildren, "This fellow doesn't deserve to go to Swarga." He tells the grandchildren, "There is a snake in your backyard. Take the stick and beat it to death." And they go nicely beat him to death. Man's desires are like that. Even if God comes and says, "Come, I will take you to Swarga," they don't want to go. They don't want to go. They're so immersed in this wealth, immersed in this enjoyment of the world. They cannot go. They cannot use discrimination. Nitya, Aditya, Viveka is not there. But Nachiketa knows all these things. Even though Yama tempts him, he replies to him, tavaiva vaha tavanutya gite. Keep your dance and music and drama to yourself. I'm not interested. Sorry. Then the next, he concludes also. He doesn't leave it there. He says, Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo lapsyamahe vittam draksham chetva jivishyamo yavadi shishyasi tvam varastu me varaniyah sa eva. He tells Yama, imagine he is giving a discourse back to Yama. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Man is never satisfied with wealth. They say if you want to make somebody unhappy, give him 99 rupees. For the sake of 1 rupee, now he'll run around to make it 100. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Give as much as you want. There is a Brahmin who got a pot full of milk in donation. And he tied the pot on a stick up in his home and started thinking, when this pot of milk is there, now I'll make curds out of it. By tomorrow it will become curd. Then I will sell the curd and I will buy a goat. And then the goat will give a lot more milk. Then I'll buy more goats. Then after I buy many goats and I get a lot of milk and a lot of money by selling the milk, I'll sell all the goats and buy a big nice cow. And the cow will give milk, I'll make curd and I'll make butter and I will sell that and I will make more money. With more money I will build a nice house. And when I have enough money, I will propose that particular person's daughter for marriage and get married because she will think now I am rich, so she will marry me. After that we will have little children, they will all play here and they will be very, very happy. And if my children make any noise and don't listen to me, I'll give them one big kick, and he kicked the pot. And all the milk came spilling down. That is the story of how a man starts planning. 1 rupee you get, you start planning how to make it 100 and 1,000 and 10,000. That's why I was telling, if somebody gets 99 rupees in charity or a beggar gets 99 rupees, that's it. He's not going to be happy that he's got 99. He'll be unhappy that he should have got 100 rupees. Another 1 rupee would have made it 100. For that he will be miserable now. So our Nachiketa knows, Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Beautiful stanza verse from Adi Shankara. Angam galitam palitam mundam dashana vihinam jatam tundam. Vriddho yati grihitva dandam tadapina munchate asha pindam. Angam galitam, body is melting away, old. Angam galitam palitam mundam, the head has become empty of hair. No hair is left. Dasana vihinam jatam tundam, teeth are not there in your mouth at all. Then vriddho yati grihitva dandam, the old man walks with a stick for a support. Tadapina muchyate asha pindam, then also his desires are not done. So desires of man are like that. Whatever you give, man is never satisfied. Na vitteya tarpaniyo manushyo. He has vittena, he has understood by wealth, man has never been satisfied. He only wants a little more than what he has. Therefore, no point. And he says, lapsyamahe, I will get it vittam, whatever I required. Adrakshma chet va, chet tva. He says, if you decide, I have met you now, and if you decide, I will get whatever I require in my life. See how clever he is. He's telling, will you be so bad to me that you will not give me what I want? Would you not be nice to me? Yama, that if I need something, you will provide. And with wealth, nobody has been satisfied. So will you be... See, earlier, first boon itself, we asked 2 boons. When I go back to my father, he should be happy with me. Here also, anyway, will you not bless me with whatever I require in my life now that I have seen you? Adraksha, I have seen you, I have met you. Will you not be kind enough to me? Will you send me empty-handed? That is how he's saying. Then jivishyamo yavadi ishyasi tvam. Yavat, as long as you want, I will live. Ishyasi, you will decide how long I'll live, because at the end is Yama who takes us and goes. So you will, as long as you decide any which ways I am going to live, will you be so bad to me that you will cut short my life? No, you will allow me a long life, I know. So very cleverly he puts his argument. And says, Varastu me varniya sa eva. What I want is only this. Tell me the truth. I have observed all this. He tells his father, no, Anupashya yatha purve, paripashya yatha pare. You think what people have done in the past, what they are doing now, and what will be the result of it in the future. He tells his father, sasyamiva jayate, sasyamiva pachyate. So this all world comes and goes. He tells his father himself at that point. So he is a viveki, he is a man of discrimination. Ajiryatam amrutanam upetya jiryan martyah Kwadhastha prajanan abhidhyayan varnarati pramodan atidirghe jivite korameta. He is saying further, this is all Nachiketa's argument. Without giving Yama another chance to start his offers, he starts off. Ajiryatam amrutanam upetya. I have come to you, I have come so close to Ajiryatam, means no old age, and amruta, no death. I've come to that stage already because I've come to you. Means I'm already dead. That is how I come to you. And your loka is the loka where there is no further death right now for me. I will live. And Ajirya, I cannot grow old in this loka. Means the Swarga loka, wherever the Yama's office is there, where he is residing. He says, I have already come so close to somebody like you and the loka in which there is no death and there is no old age. I have come this far, this close to you and this truth. So, Jiryan Martya Kwadastha Prajanan, knowing all this, why should I worry? Why should I think like those people who are Kwadastha, who are living downstairs, means who are living below in the Mrityu Loka and Bhuloka, those who are there, who grow old and die, Jirya Martya, they grow old and die. Why will I worry about that status again? Having come already and known that there is a world that exists where people don't grow old and die, like you are there. Why should I think of those people who live below on earth and they die and they grow old? Abhidhyayan, having thought about it all. Abhidhyaya, dhyayan, thought, abhidhyayan, deeply thought about it. All these things. So please don't think that I have not thought about it. That's why I am arguing. I have very well thought about it. And therefore, varnarati pramodan, all these different kind of entertainment that you are telling me, even if these are there, I have thought about all of them. Ati dirghe jivate koramita. Even if I live long, for what joy will I have? It's repetitive, same things daily. You will get to eat gulab jamun, you will get bored of it. Don't you think that what we call in economics, diminishing marginal utility? You have first time you have it, you love it. Second time you love it more. Third time you love it even more. Fourth time you stop loving it. Fifth time anybody who brings also you stop loving them. Don't give me any more food. I'm done, I'm full. So same food which was of a source of pleasure becomes a source of pain after some time. Therefore, I have seen, even if I live too long with all these entertainment, what is the use? Because anyway at the end there is a decay and death. But I have already seen you who doesn't decay, who doesn't die, and people like you who don't decay and die. Why should I worry about that world anymore? That is how he is putting these arguments forth. So he's telling Yama, please don't waste your words and my time. Let us get to the point. Let us get to business. That's what he's telling Yama. And finally he concludes, Yasmin nidam vichikitsanti mrutyo yat samparaye mahati bruhi nastat yoyam varo gudam anupravishto nanyam tasmat nachiketa vrunite. So he's telling, Yasmin idam, this one, which vichikitsanti mrutyo. Vichikitsanti means there are doubts about it, O Lord of Death. That one about which there are doubts, as you just said, that they were trapi, vichikitsitam kila. They are doubtful, gods are doubtful, humans are doubtful, everybody is doubtful about it. And also I know, yat samparaye mahati bruhi nahatat. That after attaining which, samparaye, mahati. Mahati means greatness comes, glory comes. Bruhi nahatat. Tell us about that. Yama, yo ayam varo gudam anupravishto. The vara that I am asking, the knowledge that you should tell me, it's gudam anupravishtaha, means it has gone and hidden in a very secret place, a cave. It is a way to tell that this knowledge is a very secretive knowledge. It's not available just everywhere. So it is hiding somewhere from our sight. It has entered a dark, deep, secret cave. And therefore, na anyam, none other than this, tasmat, therefore, nachiketa vrindite, this nachiketa is asking you for. Other than I don't ask you for anything else. This knowledge which is hiding somewhere, unable we are unable to find it. Devatas, Manavas, the Daityas, Gandharvas, everybody is unaware of this Param Satyam. You alone are aware of it, I know. Therefore, I cannot find a teacher like you. And the reason that you said nobody knows it, all the more I want to know it now. So tell me about it. And about all these things, I am not interested in your temptations. Keep it to yourself. I am only interested in knowing the truth, knowing which one becomes great, Mahati. One becomes glorious. They don't fall again and again and again into the trap of birth and death. They are happy once for all. Tell me that. Na anyambaro. Other than that, I don't want to know. So this is how iti Kathopanishadi Prathamadhyaye Prathamavalli. This is the first chapter's first section in Kathopanishad, that is Kathopanishad. Okay, so now you give a little attention to this whole idea. This chapter is, why we spend so much time on this chapter is because, one, it has several lessons for every one of us. There is a Vajasravas who goes on doing things blindly. Like so many of us keep doing. Do this puja, get this. Do that prarthana, do that. Give a letter to Swami, ask this. You serve in the institution, you will get that. We go on doing things with some kind of idea in our mind, without even realizing whether it is going to be useful or not. Shankaracharya says, Karmani chitta shuddhyartham. All the actions are only to purify one's heart. Actions don't lead us to liberation. It only purifies our heart. Selfless actions, if you do puja, prarthana, yajna, yagas, it will only purify our heart. It will make us better humans, more social, more acceptable to people around us. That's all. And then, ekagriyarthe upasana. For developing a concentrated mind, focused mind, not a scattered and distracted mind, upasana, meditation, prayers are required. Only to that extent it helps. But it doesn't mean that it will take us to moksha. So all the activities in the institutions just being done for the sake of helping others will only purify us from within, one. All the meditation and all that we are doing, it only will help us develop better focus of mind. It means we'll become more efficient in doing whatever we are doing. But mokshartham brahma vijnanam iti vedanta dindima, he says. This is the ultimate declaration on the drumbeat of Vedanta. What? For moksha, Brahma Vidya alone is required. Vadantu shastrani, jajantu devata, kurvantu karmani, bhajantu devanam, atma ikya bodhena, vinapi mukti, na labhyate, brahma shatantarepi. Shankaracharya says in Viveka Chudamani, that all the actions you may do as much you want. Vadantu shastrani. Keep reading all the shastras. Whatever comes, you come across. Fill up your head, no problem. Kurvantu karmani. Or keep doing all kinds of yajna yagas, seva activities, volunteerism, everything. Do it, no problem. And yajantu devata. Keep worshipping gods. Asking them this and that. Bhajantu devanam. Keep singing glories of various types of gods. At the end, Atma Ikya Bodhena Binapi Mukti Na Labhyate Brahma Shatantarepi. Without realizing who you are, Atma Ikya Bodha means you are one with your divine self. You are not the body, the mind, but you are that divinity which permeates everything. You are not the computer, you are not the software, you are the electricity that runs the entire show. The day you realize that, that is when you realize everything. That is when Mukti, or the ultimate detachment, ultimate redemption comes only to that person who realizes that he is none other than divine, himself or herself. Without which, Brahma Shatantarepi, even 100 years of Brahma also if you spend doing pujas, volunteerism, seva, yajnas, yagas, you are not going to attain moksha, it says. It means should we stop doing all these things? No, this helps you to prepare yourself to attain, to become eligible for moksha. What is the preparation? Heart should be pure. So chitta shuddhi, for that sake you have to do work. What kind of work? Not selfish work, selfless work. Selfless work will keep your heart pure. And then you should do meditation, you should do upasana, means worship, but not with selfish motives, not the karti artharti jignasus. Not with the idea of seeking and gaining some worldly things, worldly comforts, pleasures, successes from God. That's not the purpose at all of upasana. But it will help you focus your mind better. Your mind gets distracted with everything here, there, you see and you run behind it. And then mind gets distracted and you're miserable. That also will go away. Your mind will start becoming focused, concentrated, intense. Heart is pure, mind is focused. That's when slowly all this starts making sense to you. Otherwise, Vedanta won't make sense to anybody. Because you have spent these many years doing devotion, doing service, so all these thoughts are at least making sense to you. Otherwise, it will not make sense. You'll say, what is this going on Greek and Latin over here? And you will get up and go away. The very fact that you are taking interest in Vedanta is the gift of all the seva that you have done so far, all the puja, archana, meditations you have done so far, not only in this birth, but from births and births you have done all these things. That is the reason why you are even able to appreciate a scripture like Upanishad, which is Brahma Vidya. That is why you are even able to appreciate that beyond body and mind exists that Atman. Beyond the hardware and software exists that electricity, the source of it all, which makes everything work. You are that. That is the reason why we are studying these scriptures. Primary school, yes, very good. You have to clear primary school. Unless you do that, you will not admit you into high school. High school you cleared. That is not enough. You have to further go into the university. That's when you become a graduate. That's when your knowledge, whatever you are supposed to learn, completes itself. Till your graduation, there is no escape. If you drop out of primary school, it's like I do a lot of puja, archana, this, that. I go to tirthyatras and everything. And that is all I have done. What about me? Will I get moksha? May not be, because you have not realized the truth still. For you, God is outside. You are here, God is there. Then I went to high school. I learned that God is in everywhere. God is everywhere, not just in Vaikunta or not just in Brahmaloka or Kailasha. God is everywhere. The primary school you learn God exists, and God exists as so many forms, and you worship a Devi or a Shiva or a Vishnu or a Sai Baba or any form that you like. That is primary school. High school you come to, God exists in all, therefore serve all, love all. Then you go and start serving everybody, loving everybody. All this I am doing for Swami's sake. All this is to please Swami. All this is to, get grace of Swami. All right. Now high school also is over. Go to university. I am God. I myself am God. That realization is the ultimate. But this realization will not come to you unless you have done enough puja, archana. First of all, believe that God exists. Second, you have thought that God exists in all, followed the words of your Guru, done selfless service to others. Without that, you won't even come to a university. Vedanta is like university. Karma, upasana, all these are like the lower education. The highest education is Vedanta. Then you'll say, but bhakti also, Narada says, bhakti reva gariyasi, bhakti reva gariyasi. In all the things, bhakti is the best. What bhakti? Yasya deve para bhakti, yatha deve tatha guru. The bhakti to the Guru, it should be the same as bhakti to your God. Guru means what? The one who is removing the darkness of your ignorance, who is teaching you who you truly are. When you develop that kind of a bhakti towards the teacher of the truth, Devata bhakti is one thing, get this, get that. When you develop that true bhakti, where you want to realize who you are, because that is what your Guru wants. Tasyete katitahi artha prakashante mahatmanaha, says Shvetashvatara Upanishad, concluding shloka. In only such person's mind who has developed that pure dedication, devotion to the word of the Guru, who is telling, realize yourself, realize yourself, realize yourself, who has developed that kind of a devotion, that person's mind alone is capable of understanding this truth. Prakashante, it illumines the mind. Like when light comes on, everything becomes known to you. You don't have to put extra effort to know things. When sun comes up, you see this is a tree, this is land, that is a house, this is road. Everything is becoming so obvious, it's so clear to you. So prakashante mahatmana, in the mind of such a great one alone, this Vedantic knowledge shines. Whose mind, whose bhakti towards the gods and the Guru has matured. Which way matured? Arti, artarti, jignasu times are over. Jnani. I want this, I want that. Gauni bhakti they call it. That's why Maharaj Bhakti Sutra says you have to rise above this. Guna Varjita, Rupa Varjita. That is how bhakti should be. Guru means Guna Rahita, Rupa Rahita. Guru means not a physical being who is teaching you. He is only a facilitator on that path. The true definition of Guru is Guna Varjita, Rupa Varjita. Guna Rahita, Rupa Rahita. He has no gunas and no form. Then who is this sitting on the chair and speaking? He is a representation of that form and name. He is not the form and name. If some guru says, I am this form and name, that guru has not understood anything. He can only say that through this form, like this mic is helping to amplify the sound, likewise this body is helping to pass on this knowledge, that's all. But this body is not my truth. It's only an instrument which truth is being told. If sound comes out of the mic, it's not the mic which is speaking. Likewise, if sound comes out of this body, it is not the body which is speaking. That is Kena Upanishad which says, Kene Shitam, which by whose will all this is happening. There is somebody behind us who is doing all this. The same electricity is making all the world work. That has to be realized. That only will help us to become our true selves, knowing which nothing else needs to be known, is left to be known, knowing which you become that. Brahma Veda Brahma Iva Bhavati. Knowing that you become that. These are our Upanishadic truths. Now, where were all these Upanishads hidden so far? Why were all these not taken out and taught? One may ask. Because you were not ready. You were not ready to receive it. But now you have to rise. You have to grow. And this is a new phase of growth, where we have to grow where? Not outside. Not grow the organizations, grow inside. Grow the one, that connection with within. So Rupa Varjita, Nama Varjita, Guna Varjita, that is the Guru that you have. No name, no form. Oh, then what about Swami? What about Shirdi Baba? What about Krishna Rama? Yeah, if you can think of all of them as those who have actually no form and name. They came in the form and name just to teach us this truth that you also have no form and name. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would give an example. If somebody has got a thorn in one's flesh, he needs another thorn to pull out this thorn. And then discard both the thorns. So thinking you are a form is the first thorn. Thinking God is also form is the second thorn. With God as a form, this I am a form, both form thorns are to be removed and thrown away. So your bhakti needs to now go to another level. Should we dump all the photos and murtis and things in our homes? No. But look at them from a new perspective. Look at them with a new idea that these forms and names are not the truths. Yesterday I couldn't finish the story of our Chinmayananda Swamiji. So Chinmayananda Swamiji went to Tapavana Swamiji, we know that. Tapavana Swamiji is a very strict, hard taskmaster. If you can't repeat next day, he is going to kick you out of the Gurukulam. And no place, no facility, no comfort, no recording business, no writing. So anyways, this was going on. So a day or two later, whenever, this Chinmayananda Swamiji got a doubt. Like many of us have this doubt. He thought, why did this God create this whole world in the first place? Why create a mess and then mop the mess? If He had not created us, then we won't have to struggle through our minds and senses and temptations, good, bad, and try to find Him. That wouldn't be there in the first place. But He created and now we are all here. So he thought, why does God need this world at all? Why do I need this body at all? All this is an obstruction on this path. And then, means just now I said form is not the truth. So is form needed or not is the next question. So he had this question. So when he went to Tapavana Swamiji, he asked this question one day. And Tapavana Swamiji kept quiet, he didn't answer at all. Next day, as they were having the talk, Tapavana Swamiji told young Chinmayanandaji, I want some water, can you get me some water? So Chinmayanandaji went down to Ganga with a lota, kamandalu, filled water and got it back to offer. And then Tapavana Swamiji said, what did I tell you? You told me to get some water. Then you should have got water. Why did you get this vessel? Then he said, Arey, how can I get water without a vessel? That is what, how can God be experienced without this body? God resides in this body like the water in the vessel. To experience God, you need this body. Sharira madhyam kalu dharma sadhana. The body is needed to realize God. But body is not God, that also has to be realized. Water is you need to drink to quench your thirst. But the water is quenching the thirst, not the silver, gold, copper, steel, tumblers. So body is only a tumbler, water is the spirit, the God, and that is what makes us happy, not the body. So that is the idea that so far we thought body will make us happy when we engage our senses in the pleasures of the world, eating, sleeping, thinking, speaking, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. We think we are becoming happy. No. Or when we learn something, get good marks, people praise us and adore us and worship us, our mind is becoming happy. No. There is a happiness, much purer, much more intense, much nicer than all these happinesses, because all these happinesses come and go. What makes us happy today will not make us happy tomorrow. If you are healthy, you will eat food. If you are unhealthy, same food is kept in front of you, you will not eat it. It won't give you happiness that day because your stomach is upset. If somebody praises us, we are happy. If somebody scolds us for a mistake, we are not happy. So that happiness also does not last. There is a happiness which does not depend on the body and the mind and the people outside. It is pure source within ourselves. And that source of happiness is Brahman, or that is how he has been named, Brahman. So that Brahman is to be realized, knowing which you know that Ananda, and once you know that Ananda, you will not settle down for anything lower. So will you not work in the society? You will work, but without any attachment. You will continue to act and behave the way you were doing, but with a new perspective, a new understanding, not running behind names and forms, but satisfied within oneself. Mundaka Upanishad says, Prano hi yesha sarva bhutair vibhati. I just now said prana is the one which makes everything come alive. That prana is derivative of God, representative of God in all of us. So prano hi yesha sarva bhutair vibhati vijanan vidwan bhavati nativadi. The one who comes to know that this one prana only is making every animal, from an insect to gods, everybody is functioning because of that God's power, like the electricity. When we come to know that, what happens to us? Vijanan vidwan bhavati nativadi. The knower of that truth becomes speechless or silent, because it is so wonderful, it cannot be described in words. In Bhakti Sutra it says, Muka Swadanuvat. If a dumb fellow is eating some food and you ask him, how is the food? What will he tell? Only he'll tell. So that way, that amazing experience, Nahativadi, they stop speaking too much. Because what to speak about it, you have to experience it for yourself. They leave it at that. And what else? Atmarati, Atma Krida, Kriyavan. So Atma Krida, Atmarati. Atma Krida, within oneself one is playing. Atmarati is merged in oneself. Krida means he's playing when he is interacting with the world outside. He is happy. Atmarati, when he withdraws his senses and mind inwards, he is happy again. For him, this is not two different quality of happiness. Same happiness is experienced behaving in the world as chairperson, warden, teacher, student, parents, whatever work you have. They do that work like a game and enjoy the game. And when they are not playing, they go within and play Atmarati. They become one with their true selves and they are also happy again. So both ways they are happy. Atmarati, Atma Krida, both they enjoy. Kriyavan, they are very active too. They don't go and sit in one corner and say, I have nothing to do with this world, I don't want to work at all. No, Kriyavan, they are active. But how they are active? All the world is a play. Same thing, life is a game, play it. Highest of the Vedantic said in smallest of the phrase, life is a game, play it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is love, enjoy it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Simple Vedantic truths could not have been simplified further than these sentences. Everything is love, life is love, enjoy it. Life is a dream, all this is a dream. Whatever is happening will all disappear tomorrow. It's as good as a dream. So why run and give too much of attention to anything, good or bad? Realize it. Life is a challenge, yes. As we work outside and all kinds of challenges thrown. But meet it. Don't be too complaining and too crying and cribbing about them. Meet it is a challenge. When a student is given an exam, student is excited. Why? If he passes the exam, he'll be promoted. He is willing to take up the challenge. Life is a challenge. We also take challenge, we get promoted. Meet it. And above all, life is a game. Play it. It's a game. We play game for enjoyment, not for putting somebody down or feeling better than them. It's a game. So Atma Krida it is. Game, it's a play. Perspective changes. Atma Krida, Atma Rati Kriyavan, Tesham Brahma Vidam Varishta. They are the best knowers of the Brahman who can play in the world outside as if it is a game. And when they are not playing, where they go within themselves like the tortoise, which withdraws all the limbs within itself and is safe and happy. This is the nature of the Brahmavidas. And they don't have to die and go to Brahmaloka. As they live, as they go about, their jnanis. These are called Jivan Muktas. They are free from all the bondages and attachment. This is Mukti. This is Mokhashaya. This knowledge is Brahma Vidya. That's all. So you'll be thinking, what is this special thing, Brahma Vidya? Do I need to know some shlokas? Do I need to go somewhere? No. You don't have to go anywhere. 1 inch also you don't have to move from your place. At least for that worship you have to go to the temple. If not temple, at least to your own altar at home you have to go. No need. For service you have to go to the Anath Ashram or to any other place, even to your office. No need. Brahma Vidya is as you are where you are. This is the knowledge Nachiketa is pestering Yama for. I want to live in that state of mind, that jnana state, where I continue doing whatever I have got to do, but I am not affected, attached by anything. I play it as a game, I enjoy it, and I am free from all dualities. Teach me that is bothering Yama. So how intelligent, how clever, how discriminating, and how knowledgeable is this Nachiketa. He is not an ordinary boy. He cannot be tempted. And that is the idea of Kathopanishad. All, if he can become Nachiketas, even a percent of his curiosity and his determination, will cross over this Maya. Because we don't have this Nachiketa's determination. We'll start off one day, I have to attain Brahman. Next day a distraction, Brahman goes, all Brahma comes in. Then again one more session like this, one nice satsang, suddenly all the inspiration comes back. That's why I call all of them soda bubble inspirations. Like soda bubble, it comes, poof, it goes and that's it. Back to normal. When you open the bottle, it will come out like in a... So children will get excited to see that scene. Then 2 minutes later, the whole thing becomes water. All air is gone, only water is left. Like that only. These bubble inspirations. One satsang, one session, all soda bubble inspiration. Everybody is jumping around. And 2 days later, the air is out, back to the normal. That should not happen. Nachiketa is like that. Yama tempted him with every single thing. Nachiketa didn't move an inch. In fact, he got so bored of Yama's talking, he said, Yama, listen. Navitteya tarpaniyo manishya. Please, I know that nobody is satisfied with any amount of wealth. So please stop. This vara I want, you give it to me and we are done. You teach me, I'll go home, you go home, we are all happy. So after this, Nachiketa did come back to his father after learning the whole Vidya. So next 5 chapters after this beautiful introduction is the actual teaching, it starts. And Yama has put it so logically. That is the beauty of Kathopanishad. It is not jumping guns. Suddenly he'll teach something and come back and teach something else. No. Step by step, chapter by chapter, Yama takes us through the way, the path of self-realization. He takes us from the very basic, beginning the second Valli, very basic he starts with. And then he takes all the way to what is the true nature of the Brahman. And finally he says, what happens to that Brahman? Yesterday the boy was saying, Yada sarve kaman pramuchyante. All the desires are fulfilled. Ye asya hridishritaha, which are hiding in our hearts. Then what happens? Atha mrityo amruto bhavati. That time this mortal becomes immortal. Atra brahma samushnate. Then he merges with Brahman. Then he becomes Brahman. This is the final end conclusion. That ultimately all the desires disappear. That is what will happen at the end of it. Rumi said, once I had 1,000 desires, but in my one desire to know you, all others melted away. So by the end of Kathopanishad, what should happen? Palashruti. All our desires should disappear. Then how are we going to live? We'll live. Not that we won't live, but we won't desire to live. We will live because God wants us to live. We eat because we have to keep the body alive for service or for good work. Beyond that, we don't overeat, we don't oversleep, we don't overdo anything. We just do what is required, which will not become an obstruction in our incessant experience of that Brahman. That is all the ultimate goal of this game is. That experience of our true self should not be obstructed or should not be distorted, should not be destroyed because of our over-engagement in the world through our senses and the mind. That art of balance between para and apara is what Kathopanishad's aim is. So nobody needs to leave anything and go anywhere. Nobody needs to stop eating or doing any other austerities. Live as you are living, but a fresh new approach, a fresh new perspective. That my goal is to realize self, everything else should only help me attain that. And I should not lose the sight of who I am. I can act on the stage, but not for a moment should I forget who I am. Like the Yakshagana boy, who cannot be recognized in his costume and makeup, but even for a moment, he has not forgotten that he is the boy who comes from 10th standard. Even the thick of the acting he has not forgotten. Somebody stops him and says, who are you? He will tell, I am that boy from 10th standard. Like in the thick of all the action of life, good, bad, ugly, whatever is happening around us, not for a moment we should lose sight of this knowledge that we are that, and then continue to act. Now what is happening? We act and we forget who we are. This body and mind we think we are, and then we get into all kinds of roles, forget our true self that we are divine, and then get into all troubles of life. That's why it's the duality, one day up, one day down. All these swinging fluctuations is because of this inability to remember at all times what is our true nature. We remember in pockets and pieces, but not all the time. This aim is to remember it continuously and then act upon it. To that extent only the truth is very simple. All Upanishads are aiming only at that. So once somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, how many Upanishads should I read to realize the truth? And Ramana Maharshi said, any one Upanishad is enough. Even if you understand one Kathopanishad thoroughly, enough. You can read other things for your joy of learning. But otherwise, one Kathopanishad, one idea of Kathopanishad, you take it, make it everything, you will realize God. So I took time to explain the basics of Kathopanishad in the first chapter only to set right this foundation and understand what is the aim of our reading this Kathopanishad. It's not just a story, a nice one Upanishad, you can go and tom-tom around, I got one Upanishad I've learnt. No. It is to deeply understand its significance and practice it. At least get inspired to practice it. That I should practice this. This is the ultimate goal of life. Everything else should only help us to reach this goal. With that aim, we should practice. So tomorrow we will start, and tomorrow we'll go a little faster. But keeping this background in mind, that we have to be Nachiketas. If we want to really understand and enjoy this knowledge, let us develop the determination, resolution, and the perseverance of Nachiketa, that nothing else should distract us on this path. No name, no fame, no relationships, no wealth, no position, no power, nothing should distract us from this goal. With this, everything else will come. Nachiketa said, will you not be kind enough to give me what I want? Will you not be nice to let me live long? All that will come if we attain this.